Welcome, everybody, to Slack on Flicks, the podcast. It's been quite a while since we've been on here, but we are back now, and I cannot wait to talk about today's subjects. Well, the Super Bowl is officially done, officially bringing an end to yet another NFL football season. A pretty good season. I'm still pretty heartbroken that the Bears got knocked out against the Rams. It was disappointing, but hey, I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, so I'm used to saying there's always next year, and we'll see what next season brings us. But all in all, I thought the game wasn't that bad. It was a little bit boring at times, yeah, but I'm happy the Seahawks won. That's who I was rooting for. I really think that they were a sleeper team at the beginning of the season. As I recall, I don't believe anybody predicted them to be in the championship, but they made it. And they won the big thing. And as of today, they were actually in Disneyland, which was awesome. I got to watch that on television, watching them do a little parade at the happiest place on earth. Being the Disney fan that I am, that always makes me happy anytime I see one of the theme parks on air. The halftime show I thought was pretty memorable. Bad Bunny put on a pretty good performance. The cameos in that, oh my goodness. Lady Gaga, Ricky Martin, Jessica Alba, Pedro Pascal, the real life wedding that took place on there. That was I think it was honestly one of the best Super Bowl halftime shows that we've had in quite a while. I can't really remember the last one I really enjoyed. I guess that goes to show how memorable they were. But the one thing that makes the Super Bowl so enjoyable, other than the game itself, at least in my opinion, it's the commercials. In fact, it's the only time out of the whole year where I actually make sure that I'm in front of the TV watching them so I don't miss any new entertainment that's been going on. And we got a whole slew of good commercials this year, I thought. In fact, I want to pull in footage right now of what I think was arguably the best one that aired. Yeah, take a look at this. Goodwill Dunkin' from Dunkin' Donuts. It easily did its mission because I was in the mood for Dunkin' Donuts after it. But just take a look at all these actors that we're looking at right now. We got Ben Affleck and Tom Brady, and then all these sitcom actors in there. Take a look at this. We got Matt LeBlanc from Friends, Jason Alexander from Seinfeld, Ted Danson from Cheers, Jaleel White from Family Matters, Alfonso Ribeiro from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I hope I pronounced that name right. I'm so sorry if I didn't. Jennifer Aniston from Friends even shows up in there. This was just incredible. And they were all basically in character. They were basically playing George, Joey, Rachel, and look at Ben Affleck's wig. It's even spoofing Matt Damon's from Good Will Hunting. All in all, I'm laughing at it right now. Never thought we'd see Jennifer Aniston back as Rachel Green in 2026, so that was something. And yeah, that was really entertaining. I thought the production design was really good. I really liked the way they filmed it. It was just really, really funny. It was really good, smart, campy writing, which is always great. It's always fun to see athletes and actors make fun of themselves, spoof themselves, as a matter of fact. I thought that was really good. But we also got quite a bit of trailers that got released too. We got a lot more than I thought we were. In fact, I'm going to bring up some footage here in a second of what I thought was a really interesting one that got released. And it actually got released during this year's Puppy Bowl, believe it or not. That was actually something right there. Okay, let's see. Yes. Now, the Puppy Bowl I actually thought was really entertaining. Let's be honest, who doesn't love the Puppy Bowl? Just see those little four-legged cutie pies run across the field, and if they just happen to pick up a toy and walk in the end zone, it's a touchdown, or if a ball just happens to roll into the end zone, it's a field goal, and then all the little puns in there, like the popularity contest, which was won by our friend Rhett, the Basset Hound. We actually did a little interview with him last week. I highly recommend checking Lauren Boss's story to see how that went. But during that said Puppy Bowl, we got this footage released on June 26th. Look at that. It's Little Crypto, and he is meeting Supergirl, Kara Zor-El herself. We got to see how Crypto was in Superman, and he clearly stole the show. In fact, I'm predicting right now that Crypto the dog is easily going to be the Groot of the DC Universe film franchise. We're gonna see little shorts that he's starring in. He's basically the face of the DC film franchise, DC Universe, going forward. Yeah, we're gonna have the star characters in there like Superman, Supergirl, Batman, Wonder Woman, but Crypto the dog, I think, is going to have a special place in everybody's heart. And we got to see a little bit of his origin in this commercial that released. Look at that. We see him on the dying planet Krypton. There's Kara right there. Look at that. He's a little puppy. She picks him up, and as we know, she takes him back to Earth, and he's going to be watched by Superman for a little bit until Kara officially comes back for him at the end of Superman's film. And we're going to pick up with both of them right here in Supergirl's solo outing, the fourth entry of the DC universe, of course, following Creature Commandos, Superman, Peacemaker Season 2, and then, of course, we have this film. It's going to be a much edgier film. In fact, I highly recommend checking out my episode that I did with Miles Syrian and Spencer Beerley, where we talked not just about this film, but we talked in detail about multiple films that we're looking forward to coming out this year in 2026. This footage, though, really the only new footage we have is Puppy Krypto, and we get to see a little bit more of Krypton dying. Look at that right there. You know, we're going to see Krypton explode in this film. But other than that, there's not really much new. We see Supergirl running from the bounty hunters. We see her, of course, partying with Krypto. We see her with that little girl. We see her fly away, and we see her put up a little fight in the end in her Supergirl outfit. There it is right there. Extremely comic accurate. I love it. And Millie Alcock's performance, I'm already loving. We got a little taste of it at the end of Superman, but just judging from this trailer, I mean, she's perfectly embodying who Supergirl is. She is not Superman. Superman, she even says it in the trailer, Superman sees the light in everybody, where Supergirl sees the truth. In fact, she's very similar to Batman now that I think about it. Superman, when it comes to crime fighting, he's do it by the books, where Supergirl and Batman is do whatever it takes. So I'm very interested to see where they're going to take this approach. And with Peter Safran and James Gunn at the helm of this, I mean, I don't think we can do any wrong. And I cannot wait for it. In fact, I would say it's my most anticipated film of the year other than Avengers Doomsday. And sticking with Marvel right now, we did not get anything from Marvel Studios this Super Bowl weekend. I thought for sure we were going to get something from Avengers Doomsday, or definitely Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is the film that's going to lead directly into Doomsday, and we didn't get any of that. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed about that, but at the same time, I'm not really, because as big as these two films are going to be, I wouldn't mind if they just kept everything a secret, and then you get to know everything as the film is progressing in real time as you're watching it for the very first time. I think it would be a very interesting approach, and something that they've never really done before, at least not that I can remember, or any film really doing that, unless if you lived back in the 1930s or 20s during the silent era in the Universal Monster Age. I don't know. Speaking of monsters, though, we got a killer that is going to be returning this month in February, at the end of February, February 25th. We got to see a sneak preview. Tickets are on sale right now. Actually, they went on sale this weekend for Scream 7. Look at that. We're already seeing the message of what this film is going to be. In fact, the filmmakers released just this last week that Scream 7 is going to be more of a sequel to the first Scream than any of the other previous sequels ever were. And just looking at this image right here, you could definitely see why. I mean, they were already spoofing the Drew Barrymore scene right there, which, man, I'm watching this right now and I'm already getting goosebumps. I mean, I've seen the trailer. I know what's going to happen. But just to see it in the actual film when it actually does occur, that's going to be something too. This is honestly, I think, one of the more inventive kills in the series, now that I think about it. But basically what this film is going to do is it's going to follow Sidney Prescott. She is back. Neve Campbell is returning after being absent from Scream 6. And the killer is supposedly targeting her family, specifically her teenage daughter. And they make it clear from Courtney Cox is returning as Gale Weathers as well, that Sydney's teenage daughter is the same age she was in the first film. So it really is like a full circle moment in a way. And they're bringing back Stu Macher's house right there. In fact, it's on fire, which is very reminiscent of Halloween Kills and the new Halloween films that came out in the 20-teens. But if there's one thing about Scream that I really do like, it's that it's part of a genre that I am very respectful towards. Let me get this back on full screen now, because you're just looking at a black screen there. But it's very respectful and pays homage to other horror films from in the past, slasher films to be exact, like Halloween and Friday the 13th. And there's just something about movies like that that I thoroughly enjoy, particularly if it's a genre I like. Other examples, in fact, the first one that comes into my head is Disney's Enchanted from 2008, where that film was very much a love letter to previous Disney movies of all genres, mostly princesses, but you got little Easter eggs in there for like Pirates of the Caribbean and other Disney attractions and Disney history as well. it very much honored what the company stood for and what made them something to begin with. Not to mention there were voice actress cameos in there. That was really neat, and little lines in there that called back to older movies. It was very, very enjoyable. In fact, I'd say it's one of my favorite films from the House of Mouse. Another film that I can think of that did a very respectable parody / love letter to was Who Framed Roger Rabbit from 1983. I want to say that film came out. It was very much a love letter to the golden age of animation in the 1940s when the genre was so new and popular, but also film noir. And you know me, I'm a huge fan of classic movies. I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I mean, Bob Hoskins, when he walks into his office, he hangs his hat up on The Maltese Falcon, the film that paid the introduction to film noir. There's just, I absolutely love that. But going back to Scream 7, that comes out at the end of this month. Tickets are on sale. And I already know a couple people in the newsroom that have already got their tickets just yesterday, I believe, actually. I think that's going to be a great, great film. And it's going to, and you know, there comes a lot with saying that because I thought Scream 7 was, excuse me, I haven't seen Scream 7 yet. It'd be awesome if I did right now, but Scream 6 I thought was actually very, very decent. I thought that was a really good film. Despite not having Neve Campbell in it, it still was very scary. It had very likable characters in it, and I thought the twists in it with the killer reveal were actually earned, and they felt like it was part of the story. So very well done. Scream 7, I'm definitely looking forward to, and I'm happy with the commercial that we got during this year's Super Bowl. But definitely the one film, the commercial that I did not expect to get released, and one that I'm very happy that I got to see. Take a look at this. The Adventures of Cliff Booth from writer Quentin Tarantino and director David Fincher. Brad Pitt is returning to his, I'm going to say it, iconic role as Cliff Booth from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the film that he won an Oscar for. One of my favorite movies of all time. It's a contender for Rocky 1 for being my #1 favorite. And he's back now. Cliff Booth was easily the best character in the whole film. And they're, according to the premise, that he's become a bit of a legend around Hollywood in the 1970s after he took out the Manson family members at the end of the previous film. So we're going to catch up with him and see what his life is like now. Of course, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he was the famous stuntman for Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. Will DiCaprio show up in this film? I don't know. I'd like to think he will. But either way, I'm very, very hyped for this movie. I think it's going to be fantastic. Brad Pitt has made the character so likable, very much made him his own. He gave him like his own identity despite being created by a famous writer and director in a script. I thought Brad Pitt put a lot of oomph into the character. He really combined different figures in Hollywood, such as Burt Reynolds' stuntman and even a bit of Robert Wagner into his character. And I really, really, really enjoyed his performance, and I cannot wait to see him back for a second time. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in general, I say, is one of my favorite films because, I mean, it has a lot of elements that I just really, really like. To this day, I say that that film was made for Benjamin Slack because aside from being a very, very big movie buff and movie history buff that you've obviously seen on this podcast multiple times, in fact, you know, just with the subject of this podcast, but I'm also a pretty big true crime buff as well. I can't even explain why. I started at a young age, but there's just something about the mobsters from the 1920s, the robbers of the 1930s, the return of organized crime in the 40s, and then just honestly graduating to the infamous, horrible monsters that came in the 1970s, 80s, in the late 60s, you know, starting with the Manson family. It's just something that really grabs my fascination, and I just can't help but look into and just feel, I don't know, just really attracted to for some reason. It's history. I love history, and it just really grabs me for some reason. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood just put all this stuff that I absolutely love into one film. I mean, it had classic television and classic movies, you know, being shown to us in there. We got to see these old movie sets in there. It took place in August 1969, the same time as the Manson murders, which was famously quoted by, oh my goodness, why am I blanking at the name? I never blank at names when it comes to this type of genre. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen famously said that when the Manson family murders happened, that was officially when the 60s ended. And he was right. And Tarantino translated that, not that, because if you've seen the film, history was rewritten, but nevertheless, he transported us very faithfully back into that world. You can tell it came from the heart and from the mind of Benjamin Slack, because if you dig into my brain, you would actually see that movie, I feel. And even the stars from that film, not just Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, but many stars just blew up after that movie. I mean, the Manson family people think about it. We had Academy Award nominee Austin Butler playing Tex Watson. Academy Award winner Mikey Madison played Susan Atkins. Maya Hawke was Linda Kasabian. Sydney Sweeney was in there. Dakota Johnson. Dakota Fanning played Squeaky Fromm. We also had Danielle Harris in there. Margaret Qualley was in there. Golden Globe nominee, of course. Just very, very good movie. I highly recommend watching the documentary, The Family Manson, Truth and Lies, The Family Manson, and then watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You would not be disappointed. Please check that out. I could talk about that film for a long time. I can even stutter about that film for a long time, as you can tell that I've been doing for the past few minutes. So we are going to move on. But The Adventures of Cliff Booth, couldn't even get the name out. I've been talking about this film so much. Really, really looking forward to that. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be a great movie. Brad Pitt's already made that character so enjoyable to see. And, come on, let's, bring it on. I just really hope DiCaprio cameos in it as well. I mean, Rick and Cliff, that duo name just rolls off the tongue, if you ask me. Now, another TV spot that we got for a film coming out not that long from now is Disclosure Day, the newest film from director Steven Spielberg. And it's being written by the guy who wrote Jurassic Park and the latest Jurassic Park film too, Jurassic World Rebirth. So it's in good hands right there. And I have to have a script in front of me because this plot is so all over the place. I mean, I'm having a hard time understanding it even before the film even comes out. But basically, it stars an all-star cast that consists of Emily Blunt, Coleman Domingo, and Colin Firth. And it follows a group of humans that are trying to disclose classified materials that prove that mankind is not alone. So basically, Spielberg is going back to Close Encounters of a Third Kind, digging into the alien invader genre. And you know what? I'm not really the biggest fan when it comes to that genre, but in the hands of Spielberg and, following a good film like Close Encounters, I can't wait. And then the cast in general, I mean, that trio right there that I just announced, I think it's going to be fantastic. Really looking forward to that. Now, there were other films that got a bunch of commercials throughout the Super Bowl. Project Hail Mary, starring Ryan Gosling, that comes out next month. That got the final trailer released. Yesterday. That movie looks really, really good as well. Also digging into the alien invader genre, sort of. It's kind of more like Alien, but it looks a little bit more lighthearted. We also got a new commercial for the Super Mario Galaxy movie that's coming out. That looks pretty good. A new Minions movie is coming out too, Minions and Monsters. Lots and lots of good content during this year's Super Bowl. It was a good game, good commercials in between, good halftime show. All in all, I would say it's probably one of the most entertaining Super Bowls that we had all year, and I'm already counting down to the next one, except not yet, because I'm looking forward to baseball season right now. I'm a diehard Cub fan. I'm going to be heading to Arizona come next month to see the Cubs and White Sox play, and baseball, it's America's pastime. Always count down to it. Now we're going to move on to another topic because, well, I can talk about the Super Bowl basically all night because it was that enjoyable. But let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the top 3 films that were in the box office this past weekend. The top film for the second weekend in a row is Sam Raimi's Send Help. Couldn't even get it out. I've been talking so much. Now, this is a film that I would not really call a departure for its director, but definitely one for its leading lady. Let's check it out.
Have you tried making a distress signal?
Or a bigger fire?
I was busy trying to keep us alive.
But getting us out of here,
That should be your focus.
not being Susie Homemaker over here.
Let's not forget, I'm your boss. You work for me.
I'm not in the office anymore, Bradley.
Rachel McAdams teams up with Dylan O'Brien in this Sam Raimi thriller that is all elements from strange, over-the-top, suspenseful, and funny that you can't help but enjoy what is being wrapped around your brain at one time. McAdams stars as a lonely outsider, invisible to her co-workers and underappreciated by her boss. However, they are forced to work together after being stranded on a deserted island following a plane crash. Pride takes on clarity and frustration turns into determination as boss and co-worker attempt to stay alive and out of each other's way. Raimi takes his subject seriously enough to allow each element to shine through and culminate in a movie that has just the right amount of over-the-top campiness to be enjoyable and its scares to be thrilling. By the time it comes to an end, all anyone is going to be talking about is the performances of its 2 leads and the surprises that the film has within. Sometimes I guess all a movie really needs is its star power and accomplished director to move its story forward in a positive way. It's a slacker scale, A-. Well, that's going to bring this episode of Slack on Flicks, the podcast, to a close. I really hope you enjoyed looking back at some of the best commercials and TV spots for various films coming out this year. Makes me look forward to next year's Super Bowl already, thinking about all the new commercials and TV spots we're going to be going over. And before I go, I have to remind you, we are officially counting down to March 15th because that is the date for the 98th Academy Awards. We are counting down to the Oscars. I've already provided reviews for Hamnet and F1. You can check those out by going to WNDU.com. This week we'll be discussing one battle after another as well as train dreams. Leading up to the annual ceremony, we'll be covering all of the Best Picture nominees. You'll be able to find those reviews, as well as my full review for Send Help at WNDU.com, as well as our YouTube page as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I will see you all next time.